Filmmaker Stanley Kubrick is famous for his use of music in cinema, and in Barry Lyndon in particular. Yet why is this? His most famous uses of music, such as in 2001: A Space Odyssey or A Clockwork Orange, never used an original score, but pre-existing material in order to enrich the meaning of the film. For example, the Blue Danube Waltz in 2001: A Space Odyssey emphasizes the majesty of technology and the cosmic ballet. In A Clockwork Orange, the use of the abridged version of The Thieving Magpie adds a wry, dark humour to our witnessing of Alex DeLarge's destructive tendencies. But what does the music of Barry Lyndon achieve? Barry Lyndon is a costume drama by perfectionist filmmaker Stanley Kubrick. It was released in 1975, and although it was a commercial failure and received mixed reviews at the time, it has arguably gone on to become one of the most respected films in the filmmaker's oeuvre, especially by directors like Martin Scorsese, who was once quoted as saying, "I'm not sure if I can have a favourite Kubrick picture, but somehow I keep coming back to Barry Lyndon." The film tells the story of an Irish rogue, played by Ryan O'Neill, who finds himself ascending the social hierarchy of 1700s England when he marries into wealth, finding himself at odds with Lady Lyndon's son, Lord Bullingdon, from a previous marriage. More importantly, however, Barry Lyndon tells the story of an opportunistic man who, despite becoming fabulously wealthy, cannot find happiness. In the film's climactic duel scene between Lord Bullingdon and Redmond Barry, a variation of Handel's Keyboard Suite in D minor by the film score composer Leonard Rosenman is prominent. This variation differs from the traditional Keyboard Suite in D minor, which is used in the film's opening credits. The film's opening credits version is grandiose and loud, in contrast to the dual version, which is softer and more subtle. However, in the dual version of the theme, the bass intensifies as the piece progresses and instruments are added. Kubrick's use of the dual variation is striking in the scene because it builds tension between Redmond Barry and Lord Bullingdon. In an interview with Michael Symond, Kubrick himself said 18th century music isn't very dramatic, and that he came across Handel's theme played on a guitar, and it reminded him of Ennio Morricone. It also provides a scene with a deliberate pacing and elegance. The scene is climactic because throughout the film, Lord Bullingdon has resented Redmond Barry for marrying into his family's wealth and squandering it. However, rather than resenting Barry for his actions towards the family, Bullingdon has primarily been prejudiced against Barry for being
the insolent Irish upstart whom you've taken into your bed.
This paints both characters as three-dimensional, since both have been wronged. But both are arguably just as bad as each other. Barry,
a common opportunist,
and Lord Bullingdon, a classist. What also makes this scene climactic is that Barry, who has been throughout the film the victim of circumstance, finally has the upper hand when Lord Bullingdon fires his bullet into the ground by accident. However, instead of taking advantage of this moment, Barry does the noble thing and fires his bullet into the ground intentionally, demonstrating that he has changed and does not want to quarrel anymore. In any other film, Lord Bullingdon would have called the duel off because Barry showed humanity and proved he wasn't a common opportunist. However, this is a Stanley Kubrick film, and Kubrick was a deeply cynical man. Thus, Lord Bullingdon uses his opportunity to fire at Barry after claiming
I have not received satisfaction.
Thus, the act of humanity in such a brutal and unforgiving world ultimately led to Barry's downfall. The use of Leonard Rosenman's dual variation of Keyboard Suite in D minor seeks to draw out the tension between Lord Bullingdon and Redmond Barry, intensifying the scene and commanding the audience to pay attention to the outcome of their hostile relationship. It almost feels like a military march in the way that it builds intensity over time, and with the introduction of new instruments creating a sense of unease for the audience. Any other filmmaker would have employed a fast pace technique, such as rapid-fire editing, or over-the-top emotional performances in order to successfully achieve this, in addition to conventionally thrilling music. But Kubrick, being the master of his craft, chose to deliberately pace the scene, carefully selecting a series of close-ups when necessary, and wide shots to frame the scene like an 18th century painting. The performances, as typical of Kubrick, are subdued to the point where the audience can read the actors' expressions based on their juxtapositions with Kubrick's editing choices. Leonard Rosenman's music only adds to this experience, and is arguably the element of the scene which captures the audience's attention the most. Ultimately, Barry Lyndon, in addition to Kubrick's other works, uses music uniquely in order to establish atmosphere and reflect the tone and themes of the film. Deciding to film the final duel with a deliberate pace and careful shot choices, in addition to Leonard Rosenman's score, is a unique one, and does a lot to generate tension in the film's pivotal scene.